The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to a rather wholesome episode of The Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon Gasparino.
I'm Andrew.
And we're going to be talking about some of the movies we saw this week, in addition to playing a little game show later on. And that intro is in reference to the movie I saw this week, which was a shockingly wholesome coming-of-age story called Marcel, the Shell with Shoes On. So, Marcel, a 1-inch tall shell, lives with his grandmother, Connie, the only residents of their town after their neighbors suddenly, mysteriously disappear. When discovered by a guest amongst the clutter of his Airbnb, this short film he posts online brings Marcel millions of passionate fans and a hope of reuniting with his long-lost family. So, for those who don't know the backstory of this movie, back in 2010, there were a few shorts that essentially came out called Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. It's essentially like 3-minute long, bite-sized, like watch this little stop-motion shell kind of say some weird, cute stuff and interact with the world around it. It went amazingly viral back then. Actually, it starred some kind of famous people. One of the people that was on it was in Parks and Rec, I believe. And then just nothing. It just stopped being a thing for ages and ages and ages until, for some reason, 10 years later, they decided they were going to make a movie and just dropped it without any explanation whatsoever. And I will say, for a movie that is based on essentially like 2-3-minute shorts, I think it's 3-minute shorts, pretty good. They did a very good job of expanding the universe and taking what was really good about those 3-minute shorts and really working them into the main storyline. I will say I'll start out with a couple issues that I had, because there weren't too many. There was definitely a lot more good than bad in this movie. One of the issues I had with it was the virality aspect of it. So in the movie, Marcel goes viral, kind of like it happened back in 2010, except it's like very clearly taking place in 2022, because there's like they mention things like it goes viral on TikTok, and there's people doing Marcel the Shell dance on TikTok, and that just fell out of place. It felt very wrong. I'd almost would have been curious to see this more so as like a period piece from 2010. Like, I think that would have made a bit more sense. It felt just kind of forced and awkward trying to position it as like Marcel went viral in 2022, because it doesn't quite fit 2022 virality. So it feels a little bit dated in that regard, which is whatever. You can look past it. Honestly, the parts where he's going viral and they're talking about those aspects aren't like a ton of the movie. It's like, doesn't take up a lot of time, so it works. And then I will say the second issue I had was more of an issue I had going into the film, and that I was very worried they wouldn't have enough material to work with. And the first 15 minutes definitely had me very worried, because it just seemed like a lot of the original one. Because the original shorts essentially were someone filming like a mockumentary almost. So you get like a couple like quick seconds of Marcel saying something cute, and then you cut away to see her walking, kind of like documentary style, watching this little character going on with his life, doing little interviews, it's asking questions, all that good stuff. And that's kind of what the first like 10-15 minutes was. And I was getting a little worried into that, because I was like, is this all the movie's going to be? Because there's not a lot of substance here if that's the case. But thankfully it then kind of finds itself in a little bit of a coming-of-age story with Marcel, which I'll get to actually around now. So the good main character Marcel, fantastic. They were really able to carry the whole movie on their own shell. The animation around him and his grandmother, because those are essentially the two main shell characters in this movie. In case the title wasn't clear enough, he is literally just a shell that has little shoes on and a little mouth that he walks around with. And yeah, the animation around him and his grandmother was actually pretty solid. I mean, it's not like very believable, but it works in like a cute kind of way for the movie, like where you can tell they're not trying to make it look very real. They're trying to make it look stylistic, which I think was a very good take for this kind of film, and it relates back to the original one too, going back to that thing where they're expanding on things they did well in the original little shorts. Additionally, the writers did a fantastic job of humanizing these two characters. Like, Marcel feels like a kid discovering the world for the first time, especially with the way he asks questions and like how he kind of like interacts with the world once he goes viral. He's very naive, and that kind of leads into some issues that come up that also cause problems for him in his own personal life, but then cause him to kind of have to deal with those issues and kind of grow as a person. Especially, and then with this like grandmother, she was fantastic. Like, she had this fantastic like old woman energy going with her, that worked really well to complement Marcel's like youngness and naivete. So I loved how they handled those characters. And the third character, main character in the movie, is the cameraman. And we don't really hear a ton about him. His story is kind of woven in through like Marcel asking occasional questions, and you kind of learn a little bit more about his backstory. So he's not really like a forefront character, but I think he definitely works as a device to get Marcel to do different things, like to help him out, like finding his family or getting videos posted online, stuff like that. So all of the characters actually work really well. And like I said earlier, the movie takes what works about those shorts and they really expands upon it. It's shot very similar to the old web series in that mockumentary style where we're kind of like, Marcel asks a question, and then we see some B-roll of him doing stuff while he answers the question. And the question's very cute, and it's wholesome, and you get to hear him answer his questions in a cute little shell way. And we cut to additional stuff, and then we find out more about the story, and it kind of follows along with that little pace. Which is really nice, because I think it actually works for this film. You don't see a lot of mockumentaries like that, because most of them are usually, like, either, like, parody horror, or, like, parodies of, like, stuff you'd see on, like, the National Geographic Channel during Shark Week, where it's like, we're going to find the Megalodon or something. Or something you'd see with, like, a Paranormal Activity movie. And I think the way they shoot this as a mockumentary works very well. We get, like, again, Marcel's character is fantastic. They really expand upon Marcel's world, because in the original, he's just the shell. That's all there is in there. In the movie, all of a sudden, he has his grandmother character that's with him the whole time. His main quest, once he finds out, like, he's gone viral, is to find his family, because they just mysteriously disappeared one day, and they have no idea where they ended up. So trying to, like, explore, like, his family tree is very cool, and doing some more background on the original mockumentary people. Because the way they describe it in the movie is that there were these original people that kind of were living with them ages ago, and then they left, house became an Airbnb, and then the new guy shows up with his camera and starts doing stuff. So we learn more about the old couple that was doing this, which actually relates back to the original people who made this. I think it was Jenny Slate from Parks and Rec. I think that's who it is. Because her and her husband originally did this together, but then they divorced. But then they came back together to make this all these years later. And we kind of learn a little bit about, like, what their lives were like about that point, which is interesting in its own way. Additionally, this is, like, I think the best way to describe this is like a good coming-of-age story. Because you're, like I'm saying, you're watching Marcel the Shell grow up and realize who he is and where is his place in the world. Especially once he starts realizing he can't kind of rely on his grandmother forever, because she's really old and she's, like, starting to kind of lose things and lose herself, and he's kind of, like, realizing, oh wow, I need to actually find out and become my own person. I can't just rely on her to do all these things, which spurs additional looking for my family, trying to find out all that kind of stuff. It's really cute, it's really fun, it's also very sad very sad all the while in this short little story, which is, it works very well, especially with things like where you get to see, like, I guess in terms of that coming age story thing, there's a moment where Marcel is essentially like, because from his perspective, the house he's been living in is essentially the world. He's a very small shell, so he doesn't really know much about the outside world. So when he kind of learns more about that, he's like, hey, guy who's living in the Airbnb, can you take me outside to the highest point so I can go look for my family? Because in his logic, if I get to the highest point, I can see him. And that leads to this really cute moment, this really cute and also, like, kind of, what's it called moment? Kind of like, not putting him in his place, but something similar to that, where he looks out on this vantage in LA and he realizes just how big the world is, and he's so small in comparison to that. It's humbling. I think that's a good way of putting it. It's very humbling. Let's see. Yeah, and then going into the really solid coming of age story thing, Marcel's very focused on, like, trying to find this family, like I've been saying. But as we kind of go into the movie, and again, as he, like, realizes his grandmother isn't always going to be there for him, and realizing there's a chance he might have to live on his own, we kind of get this almost acceptance of you kind of have to exist as your own person, and you can't rely on other people to help you. Even though it's nice to have them around, they won't always be there for you. And so it was nice to see that kind of thematically work into the story. Also, just really emotional movie. Like I said, it's very sad. I almost cried at one part because it just got me that good. It's also very funny in its own weird ways, because the original short is supposed to be like a little comedic thing, cute comedy short. And they definitely work in some of the comedic aspects, with Marcel having almost this, like, very dry sense of comedy that works very well with his character. Very matter-of-fact comedy. like pointing things out and such. Watching Marcel interact with his grandmother and the cameraman could be very cute and heartwarming at times. Yeah, and just little things like that, like seeing Marcel and the cameraman roast each other on occasion. Like, it really works to build like the narrative and the world around this film. So overall, very fantastic, very good movie. I will say it's probably not everyone's cup of tea, which is fine. And again, it does feel a bit dated at times with how it kind of discusses virality and the impacts of that in your own life. But that being said, I still think this is very much so worth seeing. It can be a little hard to see. I know the AMC near me was only showing it from like, I think they only showed it for like 2 weeks, and you could only see it at like 3 p.m. or 7 p.m. And that was it. Like, you couldn't see it anywhere. It was one of those like weird artisan films. So if you do get the chance, watch it. I also think this is a fantastic kids movie. Like, if you're going to take a kid to see this, it's definitely very enjoyable to watch, and I think there's some good lessons to learn from it. So yeah,
nice.
I'd recommend.
I didn't watch a movie this week, mainly because I've been very busy. But there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about. That I haven't talked about yet. And forgive me because it's been since June 22nd since I've watched this. But Obi-Wan Kenobi released on Disney Plus to everyone's delight. Ewan McGregor has returned as the titular character, and Hayden Christensen has come back as Darth Vader. This was a very good show, and I'm sure if you're a Star Wars fan, you've watched it already. I'm sure most people, if you're not a Star Wars fan, you may have watched it already just because it was on Disney Plus, and you have just those Disney people that will watch anything that Disney puts out. But it was 6 episodes. It was about an hour-ish each episode, which was actually kind of nice. The last episode was, I think, the longest one. I had very little to say negatively about this, just because it definitely answered a lot of questions from episode 3 and episode 4, which episode 4 was the 1976 5.
I thought it was 78.
I thought it was and definitely wasn't 78. Is it 78?
77.
77. All right.
I'm so close.
We were around that. We were around there.
I knew it was late 70s.
So, episode 4 is in 77. It was the first Star Wars that they've ever made. And then episode 3, which was 2005, which was the final of the prequels. And it, like I said, it answered a lot of questions about where Obi-Wan went, why he was there, and there was one character who we were not expecting to see. And if you haven't watched it already, too bad, because it's been out for 2 months now. You should have watched it already. But they cast a 9-year-old girl to play Leia Organa, which was fully unexpected. I mean, I talked to a bunch of people who were like, yeah, they casted her like a year ago. Who else was she going to play? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't pay attention to castings unless it's like for giant characters. They casted a child. I'm just like, oh, they casted a child. Like, whatever. If I saw that, I was like, wonder who she's gonna be. No. I was pleasantly surprised that when then they panned to Alderaan. I was like, why are we getting shown Alderaan, and why are we getting shown who is that actor who plays
Bail Organa?
Oh, Jimmy Smits.
Jimmy Smits.
He said he plays Bail Organa. And so I was like, are we gonna get like young Princess Leia? And sure enough, we did. And I thought it was just gonna be like a one-off, and it wasn't. She was in every single episode, and I was like, oh, This is actually kind of dope. The only thing that I had to complain about the show, and I'm going to come off sounding like one of those internet trolls, but
Oh boy.
let me get it all out there because it's not what you think. I didn't like Inquisitor Reva, which was Moses Ingram's character in this. And there was a lot of backlash from the Star Wars fandom about her character, and she was getting a lot of hate when the show was coming out, and I don't condone any of that. I didn't mind her character. I didn't mind her in the show. I didn't like how they portrayed her character at the beginning as a whiny, like, I can't get my way, so I'm going to throw a temper tantrum. It was the exact same kind of personality traits that we saw Kylo Ren in the prequel or in the sequel trilogies. And it's just like, can I stop having my Star Wars villains be portrayed as adult children? I want Darth Vader back. Like, I want a character that's not Darth Vader but has that essence of Darth Vader, where when he walks on screen, you're not thinking, oh, this guy. You're thinking, oh my god, this is gonna be bad. Like, the minute that Darth Vader walked on screen, the minute he set foot on the first planet that they were at, you knew that he was gonna just... It wasn't good. And it wasn't. He killed, like, an entire family for no reason. And it's just like, well, that's just Darth Vader for you. He's terrifying. And they made Darth Vader terrifying again in this show. And I want that for a new villain. I don't want just some whiny character. And, like, she had a little story arc that she got that made it a little bit better. I didn't like the way that she was portrayed at the end, mainly because of different Star Wars elements that have gone on in the past. Mainly, the last time that we see Darth Maul, which was in Star Wars Rebels, which was one of the animated shows, he's on Tatooine with Obi-Wan, and he says, why are you here? You must be protecting someone. So he knows... or Obi-Wan knows that Darth Maul might try to find the person he's protecting, which is Luke Skywalker. And so Obi-Wan makes the decision that I have to kill him. Because he can't report back to anyone else that I'm protecting someone. And so Inquisitor Reva knows that Obi-Wan is protecting Luke Skywalker on Tatooine, and then he lets her live. So it's very contradictory between the Star Wars canon, and people will probably say it's like, oh well, because she was Sith and then she had a change of heart and she has changed to the good side, or Obi-Wan brought her Jedi side out because, spoiler, but again, it's been 2 months, she was one of the children in the attack on Coruscant when Anakin was murdering all the younglings. He didn't murder her. He took her under his little wing and was trying to make her an apprentice kind of thing. And so she turns on Vader and becomes good again, but it was it was a weird arc, and I didn't mind it as much of other people, because obviously there was a lot of backlash with her character. But I just I could have dealt without it. Now, the arc of the storytelling between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, I was all there for. That was the best part of this show, which was Darth Vader's trying to hunt down Obi-Wan, and they have a battle in the final episode, and the battle was amazing. It was everything that I wanted from episode 4, which, if you remember, episode 4 was a very dumb lightsaber battle, but again, it was 1977 and the FX weren't really as good back then, and also Alec Guinness was probably really old, so he couldn't really move that well. But this one definitely made up for it, and I was pleased to see those characters be portrayed in that light for this. And they have already confirmed that season 2 is happening, which they weren't originally, I guess, but they're going to do season 2, which is exciting. So we'll see what happens with season 2. So I mean, it's on Disney Plus if you haven't watched it yet.
If you have Disney Plus, you might as well watch it.
This is our we haven't had a plug for a streaming service in a while, so go buy Disney Plus. Go watch Obi-Wan. There's a bunch of shows that are coming out. There's one that have just released that we may talk about. I may talk about later, but I don't know.
Give it a watch.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, on that note, let's move on to everyone's favorite game show, Pilot Wings. For those who haven't played before, Pilot Wings is a game show where I pitch Andrew 3 TV shows that were pitched. That's not true. Ugh, I'm going to redo that. Okay, take 2. Andrew's played this game a million times, but for those who haven't, Pilot Wings is a game show where I pitch Andrew 3 show log lines. 2 of them are real shows that were pitched to actual networks, and 1 of them is something I made up. And it's up to Andrew to guess which one is the real one, and which one is the fake one, and which ones are the real ones. So, forgot to... Wait, are you looking at the document yet?
I looked at it, but I didn't see anything. So
okay, I'm just gonna quickly make some adjustments because I realized I forgot to get rid of something.
Heard that. Maybe I did see something. I don't know.
We'll see. After her good old boy rock star husband cheats on her and burns through most of their money, Reba divorces him and moves her 3 kids and mom from Nashville to the only asset they have left, a little house in Malibu. There, she'll try to reignite her own singing career and keep herself and her kids from being corrupted by the materialistic and rarefied Malibu world she now calls home. 2. Centers on a family that moves to a coveted New Jersey gated community, only to discover that the entire neighborhood is now comprised of aliens disguised as humans. And 3. Focuses on a husband and wife business duo in the middle of a messy divorce when they are both placed under house arrest for embezzling, forcing them to get up close and personal with all the things they hate and yet still love about each other. So, Andrew, out of those 3 potential shows, which one do you think is the fake one?
Okay, so I do have 50-50 because I did see the thing that you removed.
Fair enough.
But I probably would have gotten that anyway because it's like you put the name of the character in there, which is the same name as the actress or singer. I'm pretty confident that that's the show just called Reba. I could be wrong because they made it. I vaguely remember a show. I don't remember it being about that they moved from Nashville to Malibu. I also remember it being like a sitcom and not like, because that sounds so drama-esque, I guess. But I'm just going to remove that one. Now, the other 2... You've got me puzzled because I feel like I've heard of the second one before. I just can't place it. And then the third one just doesn't sound like it would be a good show. Like, normally when they pitch shows, they try to pitch it so that it has more than 1 season. And I feel like that would be a show that can't go more than 1 season. If you know what I mean? So, because of that reason, I feel like I'm going with the third one.
Well, shoot, yep, it was the third one. It's the fake one. I thought I had a good one there. So
almost.
Number 1, I guess I didn't get the name of? That's weird. Only got a single season.
Is it not Reba?
It only got a single season. The second one was called Neighbors, and it got 2 seasons, but apparently they were very bad seasons.
Neighbors, like the movie?
No, TV show.
Reba.
Yeah.
Let's see. Was it this one? a single.
Malibu.
This one says Reba McEntire stars as a titular character in this smash sitcom about a single mom of 3 navigating life in a Houston suburb.
Maybe it got updated. Is that possible?
This was 2000 and oh god, this show ran for so long.
Yeah, this might not have been it because this was pitched in 2012. The one I pulled from.
Maybe they're trying to redo it.
Maybe they were trying to do a reboot.
This one I found ran for 6 seasons.
Okay.
That's why it was Reba. I was like Reba, Reba McEntire. But it was Reba McEntire that was in the show.
Okay, it's called Malibu Country. I think that was the name of the show.
Let's see, but it was Reba McEntire.
I believe it was Reba McEntire. Yeah, I guess she just had another show.
2012.
Yeah,
in
2012.
Malibu Country.
Just so happens to have an entirely other show about being a single mom doing her own thing.
This was not a sitcom, but it was maybe it was a sitcom.
I have no idea.
I'm trying to listen to it, but it won't let me. No, it definitely looks sitcom-esque.
Okay.
In the little trailer there. I don't know. Could be. Or it couldn't.
Couldn't be?
Really sure.
We'll never know.
That's really weird that she continues to name the main character after herself.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not even like a
strange.
a good name either. It's Reba Mackenzie. So she just changed the back half of her last name. So, and what was the second one? Neighbors. It got 2 seasons as far as I could tell. It did not seem to have very high ratings, which might be why it only got 2 seasons. Yeah, see, when I pull up Neighbors, I get the
Let's see. If you try copy and pasting the log line in, they'll usually come up.
There's a 2014 movie called The Neighbors, and it has Tommy Wiseau in it. Oh no, it's a show. No. It's 7 episodes. Is this it? No, a sitcom about relationships between a group of people who live in the same apartment building. That has a 2.7 rating on IMDb if you want to watch a Tommy Wiseau show.
His shows aren't actually that good. I
don't think so.
No, he had one. He's been milking The Room for years. He does not actually have anything else that's good. Okay, well, that's Pilewings. Hopefully at some point in the future I'll actually write a decent show logline.
Maybe.
Doesn't get caught up eventually. But in the meantime, let's look at some actually good potential shows and movies that are coming out. Some of the new things that are releasing this week. And there's not too much. There was that Invitation movie that I think you said you wanted to see, right?
Invitation.
The Invitation?
The Invitation, yeah. I'll probably see that, maybe not this week, but I may wait a couple weeks to see it just because my movie partner is out of town. Gotcha. I might have to wait. Because also it's a horror movie, and I don't go to horror movies by myself.
That's fair.
So
maybe you could see the shark movie we keep talking about, the Tubi original.
Yeah, if anyone wants to know what Tubi is a free app apparently that you can just watch movies on, and it has a bunch of movies on it. So if anyone listening wants from Tubi and needs a sponsor,
could be us.
We're open.
Technically, we haven't officially sponsored anyone yet, so I'm down.
We haven't had an official sponsor, no. So we are open for sponsors. Yeah, The Invitation is this week.
There's only 2 other movies that are coming out this week. 3,000 Years of Longing, which looks like it could be funny. I saw a trailer for it. It didn't look terrible.
The adult Aladdin that I keep seeing on.
Yeah, it doesn't look horrible. It just doesn't look like my thing. So, that's something worthwhile. And then The Good Boss, which looks like it's supposed to be a comedy, I think.
It's a foreign film. I know that much.
Yeah, awaiting a visit by a committee to give his company an award for excellence. The owner of an industrial scale manufacturing business tries to resolve any problems from his workers in enough time. So I think this is literally a guy running around putting out fires, which sounds funny.
I can't tell.
Also, I swear I know one of these actors. Yeah.
Javier Bardem?
That's it. Yep, Javier Bardem. It's like, why does that guy look so familiar? I know him from somewhere. But if that's in theaters, I might actually watch that. That actually looks kind of funny.
There's not a lot coming out at the moment.
No, it looks like it'll pick up later into the year. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I feel like the summer hasn't had a ton of stuff coming out. I feel like we had a lot of stuff coming out in the spring. And then we just kind of hit a point where this wasn't stuff.
What was the movie I was seeing? There was something I was seeing advertisements for, and I'm like, I actually kind of want to go see that.
What was the concept?
Was it a war movie?
What was the plot? Do you remember?
I don't remember. No, there was something that I was talking about with someone, with one of my, you know, and I saw it and I said, this would be really good to go see, I think, and I did not bring it up to them. And I don't remember what it was.
Weird. I don't remember any war movies coming out.
Well, there's one called Burial. Is it already out? Hang on.
Burial?
So there's a show called, or the movie called Burial coming out next week.
2 weeks from now. I see
a small group of Russian soldiers have the task of taking Hitler's discovered remains back to Stalin in Moscow.
Neat.
That wasn't the movie I was thinking of at all. And it wasn't Oppenheimer, because I know that's coming out.
Yeah, that's later this year, I think. That's in like November, I think.
Yeah. This is gonna bug me. Is it? It's not this, I don't think. No, that's a David Bowie movie. Interesting.
David Bowie?
Yeah, David Bowie's... They're making a David Bowie movie. Moon Age Daydream.
Cool.
I don't think it's out now, but I'm not sure, and it's gonna bug the crap out of me that I... No.
Well, I'm sure
Beast
we can...
is out. Beast is out this week. Or came
Don't know
out.
what that is.
The Lion movie with Idris Elba.
Oh, that weird. Okay, yeah. You know, apparently, I think this was a thing. Idris Elba's daughter, auditioned to be in that movie as Idris Elba's daughter, and she didn't get it.
Yikes.
That's a big oof for her. Oh man, I mean, we can just figure it out what it is next week, and you can
I'm gonna have to figure out what it is.
Do some research.
I'll get back to everybody. Maybe it was a show that was coming out. I don't know.
Show might make sense because I can't think of a single war movie.
Maybe
or
it wasn't a war
similar.
movie. I just know it was something that I saw an ad for, and I went, "That looks really good. I need to talk about that," and I just forgot what it was.
Fair enough. It'd be like that. Okay, well, on that note, I think we'll close out for this week. Andrew, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nope.
Excellent. I will say that the Name Pending Productions film that Jimmy LaCars is working on, Police 3?
Yeah.
Yes, thank gosh. Almost forgot for a second. That is in the final stages of editing, so it will be done, hopefully, I'd assume in September. And then hopefully it starts getting shown at film festivals sometime around then. So keep an eye out for this film that will be showing up somewhere. But yeah, on that, and we'll probably come along with some more information when that happens about what film festivals it's playing at and all that stuff. But yeah, thank y'all for watching The Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon.
Are you there? Nope.
And I guess Andrew screen froze. Yeah, thank you for listening. We'll see y'all next time.